Hello and welcome to this panel session at Commercial Kitchen. My name is Nielsen. I'm the editor of FCSI's Foodservice Consultant magazine. I've got with me a fantastic panel of food service professionals. We're here to talk about doing more with less in food service design. I'm going to start off by asking each of you to introduce yourselves. If you could go first, please, Wayne.
Hi, I'm Wayne Bennett. I'm the Vice President, UK Sales and Marketing for MKN.
Matthew?
Good afternoon. I'm Matthew Merrit-Harrison. I'm the Managing Partner of Merrit-Harrison Catering Consultancy.
Hi there, I'm Julian Edwards. I work for GY5 Foodservices and I'm currently Chair of the FCSI in the UK and Ireland.
Fantastic. So we're here to talk about optimizing services in the profession for better results and better communication, better sustainability. And we have so many challenges at the moment in food service that I don't really know where to start. So maybe you can start, Wayne.
The challenges I see today is actually the utility costs. I think that's a real hot topic because obviously what's happening in the world. So we're seeing operators really having the need, because will it allow them to continue in business if we don't find solutions to their problems today? And that's energy costs. That's a real hot topic for me to discuss today.
Okay. Matthew, adding to that?
I think energy costs is a huge issue, but there are also issues in terms of the supply chain, in terms of food products and inflation in food costs. There's also issues in the supply chain in terms of catering equipment. We're seeing the cost of manufacturing and catering equipment rising at a colossal rate, and long lead-in times and shortages, and it's pretty challenging.
Julian?
That's all I can do is echo these thoughts, really. There's not much more to say. It's a challenge all round, and it is interesting where the history of cooking as designers, you argue about gas is cheaper, electrical is cheaper, and that's all muddy now. So we don't know what is the most efficient energy source. What's going to cost less to run when we're thinking about buying a combi oven or a cooker or any heating device?
I think you listed all of them very comprehensively, but I think one topic that maybe we didn't mention is staff shortages. That's another area where you have to do more with less, right? I mean, I don't think this topic could be more appropriate right now. What does those challenges mean for you as a manufacturer?
Yes, we've seen it for many years, not just because of the situation we're in today, but the de-skilling or reskilling of a kitchen environment is something that we as a brand have been focused on to make sure that we can offer that consistency no matter who programs the oven or who uses the oven. Yes, you always have a skill within a kitchen, but to what level? I mean, gone are the days where you have a full brigade in most operations. So we've had to bring technology in that enables the executive chef to provide that program, be it someone live in a kitchen or skills that are brought in from a third party, and then the actual operation has that consistent product, because consistency is key.
How long has that been the situation with the equipment that you have to? For me, I always think, what do you simplify the equipment or do you raise standards of training and learning?
For me, I think actually we've been in an analog world in the catering environment, and now we're digitalising ourselves as we are in other parts of our life. And that digitalisation allows you to be a little bit more automated. You can create what would be in a chef's head now in steps. You can create into controls and actually allow the chef to put that thought what he would have in his head. So it doesn't matter if he's in today or his kitchen porter's in tomorrow. That same consistent result can be achieved because he's downloaded it and created a program to suit. So
I think the staffing shortage is a major issue. It's not one that's going to go away. Catering has always been regarded as the poor relation to other industries in the UK, which it shouldn't be. But I'm not sure that things like robots front of house are the solution. It's a hospitality industry. We want to work with people. People want to be served by people. We can see over the last few years of COVID where young children, primary school pre-primary school children have lost social skills because they've not been interacting. Hospitality is about people, and we need to get those skills and those people back into the industry, because that then has an impact on the supply chain through the restaurants, through the kitchen installations, and finally through to the manufacturers.
But presumably you are quite happy with automation back of house?
To some extent. And in fact, with the increase in allergens, chefs now have to use standard recipes. They can't simply go in and say, oh, I'll put a bit of that and a bit of that, and oh, I'll pop a bit of soy sauce in there or anchovy in there, because it changes what the content of the meal is, and it changes the allergen contents.
So in that sense, the automation is crucial. But
you still need the craft skills.
Sure.
Without the craft skills, you don't have the right food.
Julian, in terms of this simplification of equipment, and you work in large schools, for example, and hospitals, how much of a help is that for you as a consultant to bring in this kind of equipment?
Well, it's interesting because it perhaps, Matthew's right, it's the people that make hospitality. What's the point of being in hospitality if you've not got a kitchen full of chefs and a brigade doing what they're doing? But I think it's the reality check, because there's such a chunk of people who've gone off to do other careers. They've ditched food service forever. And we reflected this really well in Chantilly in France with the EMI FCSI conference earlier this year. Some fascinating insight as to some operations with almost nobody back at house, all pre-prepared, all reliant on top-end equipment that's pre-programmable. And it was almost a case of, you've got any front of house member staff doing the front of house duty, and the back house cooking operation was fully automated. So a lot of preparation goes into that. But listening to that type of almost like a fictional horror story in catering to be fully automated, it was quite a worry. But then, if we've lost a big percent of the workforce, the people, then we've got to move. I don't know where these people are working. Hopefully they're employed elsewhere and doing something else. But so we have to compensate the human activity as much as we can back of house, without losing creativity, without losing. So it is an opportunity for manufacturers, and we see this perhaps some obvious things like food processing, where mixers, food processing saves a lot of man hours, and then we see this within combination cooking, whereby the speed is so much more enhanced with a very efficient oven. So there's a time saving there. There's some great clever technology out there to make life easier. You mentioned earlier, but the exec chef can pretty much plan the menu, program the week's worth of activity. So if he or she are in the room or not, a lot of the setup has been done. So I suppose we have to kind of accept it a bit that we have to automate a part of hospitality, and do it now for the automation industry, automobile industry. All right, let's not take everybody out of it. But we have to accept the fact that we've lost our way in retaining good talent, kitchens, because it's better money and a better job doing something completely different. So I guess we have to just accept that as our next part of hospitality and automation, AI, and it's just a reality we have to appreciate. And then the hope there is that if a lot of the heavy industrial element of catering is going on with some good tech equipment, then the focus then would be to offer a good employment package to engage and encourage good front of house hospitality people who are then engaging with customers. If we lose that, then what's the point in us doing this if we're going to be a totally vended service and then constant there? So it's just the reality is our next stage, isn't it, of our evolution.
So it's about hitting a right
service. Yeah, but I think it's going to take a bit of persuading to convert traditional caterers out of automating 20% of their kitchen brigade. Oh well, we can automate that by these devices. Yeah. These are so efficient now, and the bigger risk as well. And it's interesting where we are today in this room. We're in the heart of great design, the forefront of equipment in this section, And then we've got some food demonstrations going on, either flanking this equipment department, and probably 30 to 50% of activity that way. And that way is based on caterers encouraged to buy in pre-prepared foods, which then are regenerated, pre-prepared drinks and cocktails, which are prepared in a factory. So this whole arena is de-skilling classically trained people from our kitchens, but so we're all in the same boat. We're going to go back to, it kind of contradicts our quest for sustainability and organic, local supply, craft-based, innovative chefing. We're going to be buying more products in, and we'll be more reliant on sophisticated oven work. So I don't like to use the word de-skilling, but we're kind of going backwards. We're going back to ball-in-the-bag food services, because but we may have to accept an amount of that because we don't have the human resource to prepare fresh goods anymore.
But I suppose if you put a positive spin on that, you said de-skilling, any kind of challenge like that brings out innovation, doesn't it? So R&D comes up with new equipment, new technologies, and so as long as you don't neglect the human side completely, I suppose. Now, where you work, I mean, I assume that the kitchens are not particularly struggling for floor space in your kitchens, but I know restaurants generally, there's a reduced footprint, and that's another case of doing more with less. So from a manufacturer perspective, how have you dealt with this kind of shrinkage of kitchens?
You're absolutely right. I think we're seeing, and we're in an age now where, because of the de-skilling, because of the lack of staff, those back of house kitchens are now becoming front of house, because how you create that theatre, that engagement is actually the experience. As Julian said, we as people want to be felt to be looked after. We're social human beings. We want to mix and engage, and by having a chef that could potentially was previously hidden in the kitchen, front of house and engaging with the customer base is something that we want. So bringing equipment front of house for us is so important. So the customer experience becomes so important. So yeah, we've developed technology that enables, that's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, but creates consistency. That is push button, so it's not necessarily an executive chef, but somebody using the chef's white, looks professional, and gives that experience, that environmental experience for a customer. I think that's key. And yeah, we're some of the equipment we're showing here today is purely because of that, and it's been received very well. Especially when you look at the chain market, the sites that have got multiple operation sites are throughout the UK. They want consistent results up and down the country. They want if you go into a restaurant in London or in Manchester, they want you to have a similar experience. Right. And we need to be able to provide them those tools to help them with that. And that's what we're tasked to do and delivering. And
for those kitchens that are back of house, have you seen a change towards more multifunctional equipment, or something that can stackable, or?
Yeah, it's chicken and egg with that, actually. I mean, yes, we've got some of the best multifunctional appliances in the market, and it enables that de-skilling part in terms of consistency. What we do see, and what's a challenge, is breaking chefs' habits. We put a multifunctional appliance in, but they still want the traditional kit just in case sitting at the side. So there's a trust factor. And we see that many years ago when combination ovens come into the market. It took some time for operators, chefs, to understand that they no longer need that convection oven and steamer to sit alongside a combi. And we see the same with multifunction appliances. You don't need the kettle there anymore. You don't need the griddle. You've got something that you can work with, and that technology is there. And high speed. It's high speed, so absolutely.
Yeah. Matthew, have you experienced that reduced size of kitchen?
Yes, there's a lot of pressure to reduce kitchens. Unfortunately, sometimes when an architect is involved, they will reduce the kitchen too much, and they don't understand that you still need a certain footprint to do things. There is a danger that if a kitchen is too small, you're then getting into health and safety issues. And in fact, from a design perspective, what should be happening is that the product, the offer, should be leading the design, which then leads the space, not the space leading to what you can then offer in the restaurant or in the staff restaurant. It's fundamentally, space has to be adequate to do the job, to do it properly, and to do it efficiently. Yes, it is reducing, but it still has to be adequate.
I mean, we see the rise in ghost kitchens. That's got to be the perfect example of doing more with less. I mean, fitting in the right equipment.
Yeah. Yes. And I think we're going to see more and more food production units growing again in London, particularly, where office space is extremely expensive. So people are now not putting in a full staff restaurant. What they will do is they will put in an end kitchen and a servery, and the food will be produced effectively in a factory in a lower cost space area, and you get all the economies of scale and all the economies of cost.
It's very interesting, as Matthew said about ghost kitchens. We use the word ghost kitchen, but they're now production kitchens because they're no longer just serving the fast food industry. We know of hotel chains that are working with the ghost kitchen behind them because they haven't got the staff. For that volume production cooking, it's being done off-site and then it's being distributed through a number of chains, as you said, especially in London at the moment, because the staff are not there.
I wonder how the end customer would feel about that if they knew it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
End customer doesn't mind. End customer is interested in the quality of the food on the plate. Does it taste right? Has it been professionally served, professionally garnished? Does it look right? That's what they're interested in. And what does it cost? As long as they know it's safe. But actually, interesting report from the Food Standards Agency came out recently that said that the level of consumer confidence in some of the delivered services is much lower than the level of confidence where food is produced on site.
There you go. Julian, Matthew mentioned before the design process and what dictates what in design and space. And as consultants, how important is it for you to be involved in a project from the early days? What kind of input do you have?
Yeah, it's absolutely essential. And I'm going to coin that phrase was great. It's about what you're cooking and offering first before space. That's so important. But and you're referencing architects. There's nothing worse than you join a design project when the concrete's done, and then you talk about drainage and extraction when it's too late. This does happen. And the space element. So you do need, there is a minimum requirement for a HAC hazard analysis critical control point. That's our universal language on food, the safe journey of food in, preparation and food out. And simple things, you've got to have at least 3 or 4 sinks. So there's a hand wash sink, there's a prep sink, there's a pot wash sink. Prep sink, ideally minimum 2 ready-to-eat goods, and then your raw vegetables, which contaminated with E. coli and various things. And then we need a fridge, we need a freezer, and so there's key components which you need that space. But I understand where this is coming from, because when we relate to hotel restaurant, quick service restaurant, we talk about a business premises which pays rates, electricity, gas. It's hugely critical. The conversation focuses a lot on, right, we need this much space for the kitchen, that's for the camera, and this much space for customers, because the more bums on seats we have, that's going to make it more profitable, which is correct. From an institutional catering perspective, we could be more aggressive with architects and designers that we need more space, we need to accommodate a good workforce, more flow. They'll relate to health and safety criteria more logically than somebody perhaps who's just purely commercially driven. But back to your point, there's nothing worse than joining a scheme when it's too late because the space isn't there, because they'll miss a trick. So, and I would say this to anybody in any sector, to consult with an FCSI member at the earliest point, before you've done that first footprint, so you get your basic elements in, which will save you millions trying to retrofit, and especially things like extraction, drainage, various things, allowing the sufficient power, allowing the debate has gone on back to, is it gas or electric? Where is the future? Heat source, where should that come from? Should it all be electric? So it's absolutely essential. But we are Well, it's every time is interesting, but this time now we know categorically there'll be less person power available to manage kitchens. So we've creative chefs like yourself, Matthew, your background, Wayne. We've got to kind of bite the bullet. We need to embrace something that's going to be our modelling when it comes to kitchen kit needs to be that bit more sophisticated because we're going to have to rely on that in the future because people, you know, there's not going to be that human resource available, and that's perhaps going to get worse over the years. So planning now for preempting that, and I've certainly been in situations where currently with kitchen design, our colleague Ken Winch, who's an elder of FCSI, always says the same thing about kitchens need to be easy to clean, to maintain, labour saving. That's been his mantra for 50 years as one of Britain's best consultants. And his point is perfect, because if you're taking an hour and a half, 2 hours to clean down your kitchen, your equipment, that's an expensive cost. Whereas if equipment and the ergonomics of a kitchen are designed in such a way it's easy to clean, easy to maintain, put your descaling and your clean switch mode on as you go off for the evening, all those are even more important factors. So in some respects where optimizing space, sustainability, all these things are on the agenda now. We've got a kind of stronger argument to say that this bit of kit will cost a little bit more. It'll last longer, maintenance costs are less, and its programmability is going to allow for more users and more user friendly. So we've got to take that next leap, and manufacturers that are in tune with that will do well.
And for you, working on projects and working with consultants, how important is that communication and collaboration process for you?
Absolutely key, because consultants can give the advice on, I think the industry's been wrapped up around a capex cost, and we have to get to the point that it's about life cycle costs. In reality of capex, we know in our own domestic world, you buy the best you can afford because you know it's going to last and it's going to be reliable. And it's the same in the commercial environment. So I think with consultants' input, they can give that specialist advice and say, there's manufacturer A, there's manufacturer B, but manufacturer A may last you 3 years, manufacturer B will last you twice as long, and it's only a 10% uplift. What do you want to do, Mr. Client? So absolutely, consultants are key to that specialist advice, because to the everyday user, an oven's an oven. Yeah. They don't understand actually what technology, how it's manufactured, what qualities are behind it, and we're reliant on the consultants to give that specialist advice.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
And Matthew, when you go in and work on projects, at what stage of the project do you usually join?
What grade do you join, or what grades do you want to join? And the difference is I mean, I remember one project, a client phoned us up and they said, the builder's asking where you want the drain points, and nothing had been done. No outline plans, no service drawings, no specification for the catering requirement. So yeah, we get involved at all stages. If you get involved early enough, you can actually assist the client in the direction of the project. If you get involved later, sometimes you're just simply helping the client to get the best out of what they've got. And you know, that might mean the offer is not as extensive as they thought it was going to be.
You look like you have something to add.
Yeah, no, it is. The more involvement, I've got lots of stories over my career. Really, you know, it's when you get involved at the right time. And sometimes, if clients are choosing a particular route on how they design and build their kitchens, they don't always use an independent consultant, bizarrely. But you want to have that opportunity to just steer a design that's been presented, have a bit of influence, and question why we opted for this machine. And I mean, I've got. So I work a lot in the public sector, but I've got a lot of extremely cost-conscientious clients, and they'll ask me for 3 quotes for 3 fridges, which is a pain. And 6 months later, you're in visiting the kitchen, and the new fridge is there. Don't recognise the brand name whatsoever, and the chef's complaining that it's broken. And you meet that saying as well, we had 500 quid in the budget, and I said, well, it's 500 quid a year then, so you could buy 5 fridges. So it's, I think we've got to give a strong argument every time we're promoting a route, not just equipment, but recommending a contract caterer that might be a bit more expensive. They're more expensive because they pay their staff better and there's better quality ingredients. But a cost-centered clients, and where so-and-so is cheaper and there's a better profit from it, so, yeah, but our recommendation to you is this is more sustainable, and it's the same with equipment, the same food service, but maybe the message of energy. All this helps our cause now to promote and suggest this is the best route for you. I mean, I'm genuinely lucky for my big work. I say my clients don't know what a cooker is. They just let me get on with it. And so I don't give them options really to do that function. That's what you need, but it doesn't always work that way. You know, people like to get a final kitchen design at £200,000 and say, right, we're going to value engineer this now. We need to shave about £200,000. As soon as that conversation starts, you know you're onto a hiding to nothing. So how do you value engineer? A bit of negotiating, just that clincher the deal. Compare the company cars in the car park, how big they are. You know you've got a bit of scope there. Nothing wrong with that, we're all business people. But to swap things is such short-sightedness. But you know, we'll see how things pan out. The important thing is that we take everything into account. I think this is where we come from. It's about what is the food being cooked, what is the culinary team consist of, what are we products we're buying in, and let's match the equipment accordingly.
Well, we talked about before the role of consultant is very much the role of educator. Right?
And it's
education
it is massive because it's not. We're fortunate to a degree because we're. I mean, Matthew and I both work a lot in education with extremely well-educated people, and the best ones are those that let us get on with our job. But it takes such a lot of research to understand what a bit of kit does. Why should we move to induction? What is the gas versus electrical thing? What is common? So I would say a majority of my clients say, well, that all sounds great, Julian. So we'll just do the paperwork and we'll sign it off. So there's a lot involved in setting up an operation, setting up a design, giving the right advice, and it's an ongoing thing. Just when you've got it sorted, somebody invents a combi oven.
Well, you don't want your life to be boring, do you?
You know, and then next year it'll be what's the next thing? Think of another sort of medium, beyond combination cooking that we need to. You know,
the multifunctional appliance.
As soon as
in horizontal cooking is the next one to really catch up and sit aside the combi. It's been in the market for 3 or 4 years now, and we're not the only manufacturer to offer that. We have different technology, absolutely, and I support our technology. But the market, in terms of operators, they don't fully embrace and understand that yet.
No.
In general context, some would do. We had a contract caterer yesterday said, "I need that back in my kitchen." The lady had just moved from one operation to another. It's not in a new operation. She got used to it, so I need that back in my operation. So for me, that's music to my ears because somebody's embraced that technology. They understand what it does for them, and now it's the backbone of their kitchen. And combis but multifunctional appliances can sit alongside that as well.
So, I mean, we talk about doing more with less, but hopefully that won't be the way things look forever. So at the moment, things are very tricky in food service. If you had to say the 2 things that we need to move out of this necessity to do more with less, what would you say?
For me, I also see it as back to basics. I think if you look at everyday life, home economics went out of our curriculum many, many years ago. So cooking and culinary skills from the outset, from a young age, is not being taught. So unless we start to do that, how do we train the next generation of chefs? Where do we go? Because we have to bring it through at the bottom to work its way right through. And it's our job to support and train and nurture. And I think as an industry, we need to do that. We need to really engage with curriculums, education, colleges, schools, and take it back to those basics. That's quite important.
I think going back to basics is right. I think the danger when we're under pressure to do more with less, either financially or space-wise, is that it impacts service delivery. and service delivery is critical. But as people cut costs, that suffers, and that can be seriously damaging. So it's about getting the service delivery right. It's about maintaining quality. It's about delivering what companies say they're going to deliver, whether that's a manufacturer or a caterer, and don't over offer. Don't over say that you're going to do things you aren't, but deliver what you say you're going to do. And the other thing is we need to be honest. If you can't do more with less, you need to say it, because it will raise expectation and then it will all go wrong.
Yeah. Julian, what's the key to moving on from this?
Well, the key to moving on is to carry on. You know, life is going on. We are cooking today. We're, you know, things are happening. We've got whilst we're engaging in, you know, predicting the future and social, economic, sustainability changes. We're still cooking. We still got to go back and do our night shift tonight. So it's a slow process. But I think as a just an opinion, but I think we are at that point where all of us now appreciate the cost of gas electric. That's such a big driver at the moment. We all are conscientious that certain bits of kit do last longer. It's an easier sell for us now to persuade people into the right direction. And the realities are that we've got to buy into solutions, mechanical and electrical solutions, that don't require as many humans making a noise in the kitchen.
Well, on that note, Julian, Matthew and Wayne, thank you so much for taking part in this conversation. Thank you to MKN for supporting the debate.
Our pleasure.
And it's been fascinating to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Excellent.